What's going on YouTube? Super Insane 18 here, and today I am actually doing something a little bit different for my channel, and that is going to be a Kashtira deck profile. But at the time you guys are watching this, the sneak peek for Photon Hypernova is not even out until tomorrow. This is going up on Friday, so we won't even have the cards until tomorrow at the earliest. But with how sought after this deck is, I don't expect that I will personally be able to get my hands on all of that cards, so we're going to do this profile with some proxies. Not something that I really like to do, but want to make sure that I get you guys this as early as I can. Hopefully I can get my hands on the cards. That way when I do the combo tutorials for this, I will have the real cards in hand. But without further ado, let's jump on in. So to start things off, we are playing 3 copies of Kashtira Unicorn. This is what I actually think the most important card in the deck is, because a lot of times this is what your starter is going to be, being able to search a Kashtira spell. There is a very, very good Kashtira spell that you guys are going to see later on in the deck profile, so Unicorn does kind of become the best one. There are a lot of one-card Unicorn combos, but not a lot of one-card other combos. So yeah, Unicorn is definitely the most important monster in my opinion. Then we have 3 copies of Kashtira Fenrir. This is the card that everybody was kind of clamoring after for the Darkwing Blast sneak peek, just because it is generic, but for this deck especially, you're able to search any of your monsters, which is really, really important. So obviously we're going to have that at 3. Not to mention the ability to just banish monsters face down is definitely very good. Or not even monsters, just like cards in general, face down, really good. Then onto the new stuff, we are playing 3 copies of Kashtira Riseheart. For those of you that don't know what this does, you are able to special summon it if you control a Kashtira monster, but you are locked into XYZs for the remainder of the turn. But not just that, what you can do is once per turn during the main phase, you can banish a Kashtira card from your deck to banish the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck face down, and that is what this deck is all about, is banishing cards face down, because you get a lot of effects when you banish cards face down. So it also modulates its level when it does so. It makes it a level 7, which will fit in with the rest of your monsters as well, letting you make some very powerful rank 7 plays. We are playing 2 copies of Scareclaw Kashtira. Now, this one is a little bit weird at 2, but I like it because there's actually a really cool combo that you can do with it, but not just that, because it's able to attack in defense using its defense stat as its attack for that attack. It becomes a really good out to cards like Baguska, because with 2600 defense, swinging into a Baguska is absolutely no problem. Then we are only playing 1 copy of Tearlament's Kashtira. This card isn't really that great for a pure Tearlament strategy. This is definitely much better if you are playing not pure Tearlament, it's pure Kashtira. Definitely a lot better if you're playing a Tearlament deck, but not as good if you're playing a Kashtira deck, so that's why we're only playing it at 1. But that's going to be it for the Kashtiras. We are playing a couple of hand traps. We are playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom, just because it is generically the best hand trap, being able to stop pretty much anything in the game. But not just that, it is actually a level 3 tuner, so you can make some really weird but niche Baron plays. Make sure you watch out for the combo tutorial on this deck, because I will show you a combo that uses this to make Baron, and it actually ends you on a pretty scary board. And then we are also playing 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. We don't care if our stuff's banished, so we might as well banish our opponents, especially because this deck is really known for countering Tearlament, so might as well play the best way to counter Tearlament in D-Shifter. And that's it for the monsters. For the spells, we have 1 copy of Terraforming. This is obviously to search the new Kashtira field spell, which we will get to later on in the video. And then we're only playing 2 copies of the new card, Triple Tactic Tasking, or I believe it was renamed to Triple Tactic Thrust. I have a love-hate relationship with cards like this, because it's a very, very good card, but if you open it, it's kind of a brick, especially if you see multiple copies. So cards like this, I can group that in with like Forbidden Droplet or Triple Tactics Talent. I never really like playing 3 of, because I just find myself opening too many copies of it, and that prevents me from playing, so I think 2 is the right number. But to search off of the Thrust, we are playing 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. I think that this is really important, because this deck, while it has a phenomenal matchup against Tearlament, does struggle against decks like Sprite, so being able to just turn off a Sprite board is very important. For consistency, we are playing 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity, just so that we can dig into our deck and see the pieces that we need. Then onto some of the Kashtira spells, we are playing 3 copies of Kashtira Birth. This allowing us to normal summon a level 7 without tribute is very huge. Not just that, it is a monster reborn as well from either your grave or banish for a Kashtira. And it does have another effect to banish or return banished cards from your opponent's graveyard to the deck, but that's not really going to come up as often, so we don't really need to worry about that. Then the best card that we are getting out of Photon Hypernova is going to be Kashtira Papayas. I think that they renamed this to Kashtira Theosis, but it is essentially the deck-specific E-Telly. Although you can't do it if you control no monsters because you have to target a Kashtira that you control, but it will special summon a Kashtira from your deck with a different attribute, and since it is a Kashtira spell in name, you can search it off of your Unicorn, which makes it a very, very good card. Then we are playing 3 of the new field spell, the Prime Planet Pariasis. Probably butchered that name, and I'm not sure if they changed it in the TCG naming, but this will essentially act as a reinforcement of the army type card, where you can just add a Kashtira from your deck to your hand, so definitely very strong. It does have the additional bonus of giving your monsters 100 attack for every different attribute that you have as well, but that's really not as important as just being able to add a card. Then onto the traps, we are playing 1 copy of Kashtira Big Bang. This is the prime subject that you are going to banish off of your Rise Heart effect, because when you banish it, you can resummon one of the materials that is attached to your Shangri-Ira, which allows for some really generic, or really degenerate rather, combos. But not just that, it also is a pseudo-evenly matched. As long as you control a Kashtira XYZ, you can make you and your opponent banish cards until you both only have 1. So it's very strong, especially because you're able to recur it. If something like Papayas is banished, you can add any Kashtira card from your banish to your hand, so it does have that little bit of synergy as well. And finishing up the main deck, we are playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, just for another kind of hand trap / effect negation and interruption. That is it for the main deck. That is 40 cards. Let's show you guys the extra. Now, because this is a pre-release deck profile, obviously this is still a work in progress, so don't roast me too hard in the comments, but here's what we have for the extra deck. We are playing 2 copies of Kashtira Shangri-Ira. This is one of the main strategies of the deck, because anytime a card is banished face down, you can lock out a zone on the field, meaning that you can just lock out your opponent's monster zones and prevent them from playing the game. The typical combo that you're going to do is actually going to lock out 3 of their zones on your turn alone, not to mention if you're able to banish cards face down during their turn, you're going to lock out more zones, so definitely a very oppressive card. One thing to note is that once those zones are locked, it doesn't matter if you negate the effect of Shangri-Ira. It is a condition that is now placed on those zones, so something like a Dark Ruler, even though it would negate the effect of Shangri-Ira, will not free up those zones, so just keep that in mind. The best way to out a card like this if you are trying to play against Kashtira is to put it face down or remove it from the field entirely. Then we are playing 2 copies of Arise Heart. This is the new boss monster. It is a Macro Cosmo on legs. Any card that would be sent to the graveyard is banished instead, but not just that, anytime a card is banished once per chain, you can attach a banished card to it as material, meaning that it's just going to stack material underneath it pretty much indefinitely. And the reason that's important is because once per turn quick effect, you can detach 3 materials to target a card on the field and banish it, so it's just another form of interruption on your opponent's turn. And you can even make this card using just 1 material, because as long as you activated the effect of Shangri-Ira that turn, you can just overlay it on top of any Kashtira monster. Then we are playing a copy of number 89, Diablosis the Mind Hacker. This is a really good card because it lets you snipe cards out of your opponent's extra deck. This is why you're seeing a lot of players bump up 1-ofs that they would normally only have, up to 2 or 3-ofs, because they don't want to get them ripped out and just lose. Like me personally, if I'm playing Tearlament, I'm going to have to now play 2 copies of Kit Kalos instead of 1, just to make sure that this card doesn't rip it out of my extra deck and make me lose the game. But not just that, when a card is banished face down, it also banishes cards from the top of your opponent's deck face down, equal to the number of face down banished cards they have. So you can very, very easily deck your opponent out with just this card, and honestly, this is a huge powerhouse for the deck. Then we are playing a couple of just generic rank 7s. We have a Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosac, we have a number 11 Big Eye, a number 76 Harmonizer Gradiel. This card is actually really cool because it's a pseudo DD Crow, so in a deck that already counters Tearlaments very hard, you have another Tearlament counter as well, but you can also use it to get rid of things in sprites, like when they are using their elf to try and target something, you can just get rid of whatever the elf is targeting, so really good, just generic graveyard disruption. We are playing 1 copy of Red Eyes Flare Metal. A lot of times if you can't OTK your opponent but you can put them low enough, this is a death sentence because they will have to pay 500 for every card that they resolve. And then we are playing 2 copies of Zeus. This is to counter opposing Mind Hackers because the best and most efficient way of breaking a Kashtira board is to Zeus it, so we want to make sure that if we're going second, they can't just rip out our 1 Zeus and call it game over. We are playing a single Synchro, that is going to be Baron de Flor. You can make this with the Ash Blossom, and there are some really cool combos, so once again, make sure you stay tuned for that combo tutorial. Should be out here in a couple of days. And then we are playing 3 links. We have 1 Dark, 1 Win, and 1 Blackluster Soldier of Chaos. These are just generic good cards. The Win can go ahead and reborn something like your opponent's Unicorn. Dark is just generically good right now, and this is actually really cool when you make it with a level 7 or higher, so why not put it in this deck? And there you guys have it. That is going to be my Kashtira deck profile post Photon Hypernova. Hopefully I can get my hands on those cards for you guys so I can show you a combo tutorial with the actual pretty shiny cardboard. But yeah, I hope you guys are excited for this. I know that a lot of people are really hyped for it because it does counter Tearlament so heavily. I personally think Tearlament is its only good match. Well, it's kind of mid against everything else, but hopefully time will prove me wrong, because this is a very cool deck and a very interesting concept that I really hope will do well, so that, you know, I can kind of see what is happening and be able to provide that content for you guys. So you know the deal. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends, maybe consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.